God gave gave man two heads, and unfortunately they can only think with one at a time. After the surgery, in a sexual context, I had to begin to kind of think with both heads at the same time. You know, it's not all with the physical, with that particular thing that you got, that particular head that you got to use to please your partner. So you find other ways, and you begin to bring in other little techniques and things that you may have not given some consideration to. If your grandfather died of cancer, I just assumed that he died from lung cancer because he smoked Camel cigarettes all of his life. But come to find out, he died from prostate cancer. Not only did he die from prostate cancer, but both of his brothers died from prostate cancer. So, and I did not know all of this until I was diagnosed, and then I started doing the research and found out, wait, I've got a family background. The prostate has a tendency to be tied to one's sexuality. And as a black man in America, there aren't too many occasions when we get, quote, if you want to consider this to be a positive accolade. But in terms of our identity, if nothing else, we got a quote, positive identity in terms of our athletic ability and our sexuality. And I think that a lot of black men, first off, we don't go to the doctor, period. Now, there could be financial issues and things of that matter, but this is a matter of dealing with one's sexuality. I remember I had a cousin to kind of want the word kind of relayed to me about, man, if you get that surgery, once he found out I had prostate cancer, that if you get that surgery, you're not going to be able to have sex. And I sent word back to him, dead people don't have sex anyhow. So if I don't get the surgery and I'm dead, I can't have sex. So my sex life is over, period. I'd rather be alive with no sex life than to be dead and no life at all. My name is Ted Davis. I'm a professor at the University of Delaware in the Department of Political Science and International Relations. I'm not a native Delawarean, but I've been here long enough to feel that Delaware is my home now, and so I'm delighted to be here. My wife, I have a wife, Wanda, and we have three wonderful kids and a dog. I've always gotten a yearly physical. And so as part of the process of getting the physical, one gets the digital rectal exam where they check for prostate cancer. And there's a nice little saying I heard someone say about that in terms of, sometimes, particularly as black men, and and I'm gonna say homophobia, but I don't want, nobody playing back there. And my general, I've heard this say, someone say, it's either, when you have to think about it in terms of this, it's 3 or 6. Kind of 3 inches up there checking your prostate, or 6 feet in the ground. Which do you choose? So in my particular case, and actually my family physician is, I like to think of as a personal friend. I mean, I know him and have a relationship with him outside of the office. And obviously it's kind of embarrassing someone that But to me, I put that aside in terms of saying, look, I want to live. And so I would, that's a part of the process that he would check. I was having symptoms, and I don't think my symptoms were necessarily tied to my prostate, probably because I mean, to each person it's going to be different. I've got kind of bladder issues too, and so we were trying to figure out why is it that I'm always having to urinate, so constantly go to the bathroom, and we thought maybe it was diabetes and things of this nature, and we couldn't. So we decided maybe you need to go to a urologist, and the urologist, I mean, my prostate felt normal, but we went ahead and did a biopsy, and it was through the biopsy that they discovered that I had cancer, but it was only in one set of the lobes. So the thing was, it was kind of by accident that I discovered that I had prostate cancer, because I've always been one to feel that every year I'm going to go and have my physical. So it was by accident that I found out that I had prostate cancer, and that was the result of one, having a very good doctor that I had felt comfortable with, family physician, and two, I do the annual physical. If I want to live, it's not, you know, the digital rectal exam. Doctor, do what you need to do for the, you know, the 3 to 4 minutes. If this is going to save my life, I'll take it. You know, the 3 inches, you know, fingers up there, 3 inches going to save my life, I'm going to do it. When I was told that I had prostate cancer, it wasn't something that, I mean, you know, this wasn't something that I had ever, in my wildest dream, particularly at a very young age, that I thought that I would find myself having to think about what my treatment would be, because I had even given very little consideration to the fact that I would possibly have prostate cancer. Well, when I originally was told, I guess I handled the shock of hearing that I had prostate cancer rather strangely, because I just thought it was kind of funny to me, because I'm sitting there thinking, what? You know, there's no way. The last thing on my mind that I was thinking about, and then the reality began to kind of set in. My situation is really interesting too, because I discovered prostate cancer at a very early age. Now, I did not realize, I knew my grandfather had died of cancer. And this is another thing that we don't do enough of, particularly as blacks and black males. We don't know enough, we don't do enough investigation in terms of our family medical history. When we have a tendency, when our people die, they're just dead. We don't need to understand the circumstances. Well, that's bad for us to do, because not knowing the circumstances, we're doing more harm to ourselves. We need to kind of get some indication that, look, if your grandfather died of cancer, I just assumed that he died from lung cancer because he smoked Camel cigarettes all of his life. But come to find out, he died from prostate cancer. Not only did he die from prostate cancer, but both of his brothers died from prostate cancer. So, and I did not know all of this until I was diagnosed, and then I started doing the research and found out, wait, I've got a family background, I got a history of this. My diet wasn't what it was supposed to do, eating a lot of fatty foods, and you know, I like the collard greens and the fried chicken and all of that. Even though I didn't have a job that, in terms from an environment that put me around a lot of chemicals, but I'm gonna be honest, I live in Delaware, and I don't know what's going on in Delaware, but something is going on, and so I think when I was told, a lot of thoughts started going through my head in terms of, because I didn't have a lot of knowledge about prostate cancer. I started thinking about, so this is how it's going to come to an end. And I started immediately thinking, how many years do I have? And things of that nature. And I now go to a support group here over at the American Cancer Society building. I wish I would have known that support group existed before I, it's always good to get some information from other people. But yeah, I thought this was the end, and I became. And it's nothing like getting the news that you've got prostate cancer after you get over the, in my case, getting over the initial point of realizing yes, you've got it. Then you begin to become fearful. Not necessarily for me, but what's going to happen to my family, and those type things start to run through your mind. So yeah, I thought about the end, and I thought about what were going to be the consequences of that, but you got to have family, whether it be husband, wife, children. You also, there are a lot of support groups that are in your community. You need to seek these support groups out, because you'd be surprised. People have gone through it. It's nothing like being able to talk with someone who has gone through what you have gone through. And I can't stress that enough. Seek out the support groups, whether it's prostate cancer, whether it's colon cancer, but talk to people who've been there and done that.
Did prayer help you through the ordeal?
Yeah, I like to think of myself as being more of a spiritual person than a religious person, and so certainly you begin to rethink things, and certainly you begin to pray and in my own way. And again, the prayers really were not about me per se, but it was kind of for my family. I'm more concerned because to be honest with you, I have had, and I'm a fairly young man, but I've had a wonderful life. And if my life ended today or tomorrow, I have far exceeded what I ever imagined, growing up, that I would exceed. So I've had a wonderful life, and so, but yeah, you pray. I mean, you got to find strength from some place. And from somebody and from something, and so obviously you can find strength from family and friends and others, but you also need to kind of find that inner strength and strength from that which is kind of beyond self. So yes, prayer is important. Immediately did some research and found out that my options were, and as the doctor told me, one option is to the, I think they call it wait and watch option, wherein you basically do nothing. You just kind of, keep track of your PSAs and see how things kind of progress. The second one was the radical prostatectomy. That's the operation wherein they go in and actually remove the prostate. Then there's the radiation therapy, and then there's the hormone treatment, etc. I decided to go with the radical prostatectomy, and my reasoning for that was partly due to my age. I mean, just kind of from the research that I had, kind of the indications were that the other treatments, the radiation in particular, at that particular time, in possible 10 to 15 more years, you might have to go in and have some other kind of procedure. And my mindset was, look, I'm a young man. The main thing that I want to do is I want to get the cancer out of my body. I don't want to take chances in terms. Now, this is just me. Other people do things differently, and this isn't saying that one method is better than the other, but my decision was to just do, I want the cancer removed from my body. I want the organ removed from my body, because at that particular time, my cancer had not metastasized, so it wasn't outside of the prostate. And so it was just my general idea. If I remove that, I don't have to worry about the possibility of the cancer coming back, at least within that particular organ. So that's why I elected to do the radical prostatectomy. When you do the prostatectomy, as I did, it's for sure the organ is gone and the cancer as it existed in that particular organ is gone. But the consequences, as we'll talk about in a few minutes, the consequences are going to be a little more, I want to say, a little more radical. But the chances is you do the other treatments, you don't, in terms of things like incontinence, ED, is perhaps less of a problem, but still, I mean, you got to go on this idea, did they get this cancer? You know, when they did that radiation beam, did they hit the right place? I guess it's always good to get a second opinion. I'll be honest with you, I did not get a second opinion per se. I think if that's going to make you feel comfortable getting a second, third opinion, do that. Whatever's going to kind of satisfy you. You've got to, from my standpoint, you've got to have faith and you've got to trust. When you get that diagnosis, I mean, I feel like you got to trust your doctors. I thought the evidence was there that I had cancer in my prostate. To me, it wasn't necessary in terms of to go in to try to get someone to confirm that I didn't have it. It becomes kind of hit and miss, because if you go to someone and they say you don't have it and you do have it and you use that information and you do absolutely nothing, and then by the time you start really getting the symptoms, the thing has metastasized and spread to other parts of the body. So I didn't feel like I needed a second opinion there. I trusted my family physician, who was wonderful, and I had a number of conversations with him about my options. So in other words, again, because I was kind of under the impression of my general idea, and I made this decision rather quickly, that I wanted the organ removed from my body. I did not go through the process of getting the second opinions. Now again, that was my decision. It's always good to get a second opinion, but as I say, I mean, you gotta, we can get second, third, fourth. It depends on what it is that you're looking for. I think the only reason that you would get a second opinion is to help one make the decision about what type of treatment how you're going to treat it. Just to get a second opinion to confirm it, I mean, that becomes kind of an individual choice. The prostate has a tendency to be tied to one's sexuality. And as a black man in America, there aren't too many occasions when we get, quote, if you want to consider this to be a positive accolade. But in terms of our identity, if nothing else, we got a quote positive identity in terms of our athletic ability and our sexuality. And I think that a lot of black men, first off, we don't go to the doctor, period. Now, there could be financial issues and things of that matter, but this is a matter dealing with one's sexuality. I remember I had a cousin to kind of want the word kind of relayed to me about, man, if you get that surgery, once he found out I had prostate cancer, that if you get that surgery, you're not going to be able to have sex. And I sent word back to him, dead people don't have sex anyhow. So if I don't get the surgery and I'm dead, I can't have sex. So my sex life is over, period. I'd rather be alive with no sex life than to be dead and no life at all. Our identity is kind of tied to our sexuality. And this is something that interferes with one's sexuality. Then I think that some subconsciously, I don't think people go around necessarily contemplating this, but I've heard people talk that somehow we know that this is tied to our sexuality, and hopefully we can use videos like this to kind of clear up some of the rumors and to get people to understand that having a prostate exam and dealing with prostate cancer doesn't necessarily have to change one's sexuality. And so after the surgery and all of that, and realizing that things were going to be a little bit differently, I can't do some of the things, and I can't get some of the reactions today that I got at age 21, but I didn't need to have prostatectomy in order for that to happen. As you get older, you're not going to be able to perform, and things aren't going to happen as well. I think one of the advantages, though, for me is that it made sex kind of more multidimensional. What do I mean by that? Sometimes, and I kind of tell the story. The little joke is that, you know, God gave gave man two heads, and unfortunately they can only think with one at a time. After the surgery, in a sexual context, I had to begin to kind of think with both heads at the same time. In other words, what I'm saying is, if your sex is kind of one-dimensional, and you depend on that, then you're in trouble. But sex can be multidimensional. I mean, there's that physical dimension, but there's also that mental dimension, and the two go hand in hand. So in other words, I'm not having any real problems, but the thing is that, again, things aren't as rigid as they used to be, but as you get older, they don't get as rigid now, so that's just going to happen. So you have to find other ways to please your partner. You have to kind of expand kind of your sexual horizon. There are a lot of ways, I mean, and they're all, it's not all with the physical, with that particular thing that you got, that particular head that you got to use to please your partner. So you find other ways, and you begin to bring in other little techniques and things that you may have not given some consideration to, because, hey, this is what I work with. So from my standpoint here, I would like to think of it actually enhancing the sexual relations, because I ain't relying on one thing all the time. That now, you have to kind of do other things and the mental things, and so just sometimes the holding and the cuddling and all the other little things become kind of important. So it kind of worked in a positive, because it makes you less one-dimensional, and you need to become more multidimensional.
Okay, now what would you like to say in your closing before we end it?
Yeah, I just want to encourage all men, but especially black men, because too many of us are dying from prostate cancer unnecessarily and prematurely. I think we got to get over this old general idea about not going to the doctor, and that somehow bad things happen to you if you go to the doctor. I mean, all that, we need to put that aside. We need to take care of ourselves and understand that this is a disease that is treatable if it's caught early enough. I know some people say, well, finances might be a problem, but there are at least twice a month, there's some clinic, some group, some body somewhere in your county, in your city, that's giving free exams. The opportunities are there to get this. So money shouldn't be a cost. I certainly encourage people to go ahead and do it, because I don't know who's have the saying, but the life you save may be your own.